أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الرحيم.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The first slide which we are going to look at is regarding the basics in terms of in which situation does Hajj become obligatory and farz. And as you can see from the first slide that Hajj is obligatory on someone who is free, or in Urdu we say someone who is in azad, sane, so someone has to be sane. He has to be, if he's like mentally ill, then obviously Hajj would not be obligatory. And also that he has to be healthy, so if he's crippled, if he's ma'zur, Hajj is not obligatory on that individual. And he has to be an adult, he has to be baligh and mature. Now this is something very important, because if someone was a child, now baligh, if he was immature, and he went for Hajj, then when he becomes mature, when he reaches the age of puberty, he will have to do that Hajj again. Because when he was immature, the Hajj which he performed, then that's not farz Hajj, that's not obligatory Hajj, that's like more like a nafal and an optional Hajj. So when he regains, or when he reaches the age of puberty, he will then have to do that particular Hajj again. And then the bullet point at the end then goes on to say that a woman needs to either have a mahram to perform Hajj, or she has to have a husband to perform Hajj. Now this particular ruling regarding a woman having a mahram, it needs to be highlighted that this ruling applies whether the woman is going for Hajj or whether she is going somewhere else where the distance is more than 48 miles. This is very, very important, because a lot of people assume or think that, oh, if a woman is going for Hajj, she needs a mahram. But if she's going, say, from London, if she's going from Birmingham to London or Birmingham to Manchester, then she doesn't need a mahram. She could go by herself, she could drive there, she could go on the train. So that's incorrect. If a woman is going for Hajj, as we're talking on the issue of Hajj, she needs to have a mahram, like a father, she needs to have a brother, a son, so on and so forth, or a husband to perform the Hajj. Even to the extent that scholars have said that if a woman, if she had money, she had the means to go for Hajj, she had a lot of money, but she didn't have a mahram to go with. Or just say, for example, her husband had passed away, or she didn't have a husband, then in that situation, the performance of Hajj is not obligatory upon her. So in terms of wujub, obligation it is, but not in terms of performance. Hence what will happen is that before she dies, she will have to make a will, a wasiyah, that somebody after my death perform my Hajj. But in terms of performing it at this moment in time, Hajj is not obligatory upon her. The next two paragraphs, or the next two slides I should say, talks about the virtues of performing Hajj. So we just quickly look at them. The first hadith, which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, a very famous hadith, which talks about Umrah is the expiation for the sins committed in between and the previous Umrah. And then he goes on to say, وَالْحَجُّ الْمَبْرُورُ لَيْسَ لَهُ جَزَاءٌ إِلَّا الْجَنَّةِ, that the reward of an accepted Hajj is nothing but Jannah and paradise. So that's what a person will get for doing an accepted Hajj, meaning that that person is guaranteed Jannah and paradise. And then another famous hadith where, again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that whoever performs Hajj, he does not approach his wife, nor does he commit sin, then he has those that he has returned as a newborn child. Meaning that when a child is born, then this child is born sinless, i.e. ma'soom, in terms of no sin. So similarly, when a person performs Hajj, and if that Hajj by the will of Allah is also an accepted Hajj, then obviously that person will get the reward of Jannah, and he will come back as like really truly reformed in terms of character, spirituality. He will be totally reformed. And in this slide which we have in front of us, just tells us that what is Hajj Mabrur, a very common thing. People ask, okay, how do we know our Hajj is accepted? So these are some of the things which we should look at for our Hajj to be accepted. But the best one given by a very famous scholar called Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah, that a sign of Hajj Mabrur is that when you come back, you totally abstain from the things or from the sins which you were doing before. That's a sign of Hajj Mabrur. Just say, for example, before a person went for Hajj, just say he was involved in, say, gambling, or he was involved in bad things or evil things. Now, if after Hajj he comes back and he's doing the exact same thing, like he's still continuing gambling, or he's still continuing committing adultery, he's still eating haram, he's still earning haram, then that means that the Hajj which he performed is not accepted Hajj. But however, if after he comes back from Hajj, the bad things which he was doing, the evil things which he was doing, he may have had a haram job, may have been earning haram. If he then leaves that out and then he changes his life and he starts doing halal jobs or halal things, then that is a sign of a person's Hajj being accepted. Now moving along, the paragraph or the slide, which we're going to look at now, talks about the categories or the three different types of Hajj a person can perform. Okay, so this is we're getting into the meat of the Hajj section here. Now there are three types of Hajj or three categories of Hajj a person can perform. The first category is called Tamattu Hajj. And the definition of Tamattu Hajj is that a person, he performs Umrah in one ihram, and the word ihram, we're going to look at this later. Ihram doesn't mean the clothes, ihram means the intention and the talbiyah. So a person, he performs one Umrah, and after he performs that particular Umrah, he then releases himself from the ihram. And the way you release yourself is by shaving your head. And then after he does that, then he will be in the state of hillat. What I mean by that is that he's allowed to do, like for example, shave his head or cut his nails, apply perfume. These kind of things are all lawful and permissible. And then on the days of Hajj, and the days of Hajj starts from the 8th of Zulhijjah, he then puts on the ihram, he makes the intention, but this time he makes the intention of Hajj. So that, in a nutshell, is the definition of a Tamattu Hajj. And if you have a look at the slide in front of us, it says the Umrah, then Hajj during the month of Hajj. Month of Hajj meaning from Shawwal, Zulqa'dah, first 10 days of Zulhijjah, in separate ihram, meaning that in one ihram you perform the Umrah, then afterwards you release yourself from the Umrah, then you do the Hajj, and then the next bullet point then goes on to say that for this particular form of Hajj, i.e. Tamattu Hajj, it is obligatory, it is wajib for you to sacrifice a hadi, which in brackets means a qurbani animal. Okay? Now, just one point here. You know this qurbani animal which we're referring to, it doesn't mean the qurbani animal which we normally give. A lot of people think that, oh, this qurbani which I'm doing is for the qurbani I would have given anyway if I didn't go for Hajj. They're two separate things. The qurbani which you are giving here is because of Hajj. Yeah, because of the Tamattu Hajj which you are performing, because of the Qiran Hajj which you are performing. The qurbani which you give normally, that is based on your saving. That is based on how much money you have, similar to zakat, similar to sadaqah fitr. So they're two different things. Just generally speaking, because someone when he goes for Hajj, most likely he's going to be a musafir, a traveler all the time. So therefore, that qurbani will not be obligatory upon him. But the qurbani which the Sharia is saying that you have to give here, that is because of the Hajj. And the reason why you're giving a qurbani or you're sacrificing an animal here is because of a particular benefit which people who are not living in Makkah are utilizing or are benefiting from. Hence, for that particular benefit, we are sacrificing an animal. What I'm trying to say is that when you look at strictly speaking, this was something which the great Khalif Sayyidina Umar ibn Anhu was very strict about, in terms of he did not allow people during the days of Hajj performing Umrah. He would say that no, days of Hajj, 2 months and 10 days, that is only for Hajj. You should only perform Hajj, not Umrah. You got the remaining 8.5 months to perform your Umrah. But because for people who are coming from outside Makkah, like you and I from the UK, Obviously, we can't go Makkah, we can't go like, besides the days of Hajj or the month of, we can't go some of the 2 months later for Umrah again. It will be very expensive. So therefore, what we're doing is that we taking advantage of a benefit in terms of during the days of Hajj, we are performing Hajj and we are also performing Umrah. Hence, because of that reason, it is obligatory for us to sacrifice an animal. So that's why we're sacrificing a particular animal. Okay, and then that is shown here from the diagram on the right-hand side, on my right, on this right-hand side here, the Umrah and then encircle Hajj, trying to show that these two things are done separately. The next category of Hajj is called Qiran. And this is, according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, is considered to be the most preferable and the best, because there's more difficulty in this one. And this type of Hajj basically means that you perform Umrah and Hajj in one ihram. So basically, like, it could be a week before the days of Hajj, or before the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, 10 days, Allah Alam, depending. Then what happens is that you put on the ihram, and in this ihram you make the intention of performing Umrah and Hajj together. Okay? So that is known as Qiran. Qiran, Arabic word, literally means to join. So this is what this particular category of Hajj entails. And then at the bottom it says that, like the Tamattu Hajj, it is also obligatory for you to sacrifice a Qurbani animal. And that is shown from the diagram on my right hand side here, that you're basically in one ihram, you are performing both Umrah and Hajj together. The third category of Hajj is called Ifrad. And Ifrad just means singular. And what this particular category of Hajj entails is that you're just doing Hajj during the month of Hajj. So there's no Umrah before, you're just basically doing Hajj. So this is mainly for, well, obviously people who are coming from outside Makkah, like from the UK, they sometimes do this as well. But when you look at it, it's mainly for the people living within the vicinity of the Haram, like the people of Makkah, because obviously they could do Umrah whenever. So they tend to do this particular category of Hajj, where on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, they will then put on the ihram, make intention for Hajj, for 5 days do the Hajj, and then afterwards they perform the Hajj. And as you can see at the bottom, it says, because you're not benefiting yet, you're not doing Umrah, so therefore in this situation, it's not obligatory for you to sacrifice a Qurbani animal. It's mustahab, desirable, but it's not necessary. Okay. Now, so that concludes the categories of Hajj. Yeah? Now, after individual decides to, or when he decides or makes up his mind that I'm going to perform this Hajj, Qiran or Tamattu or Ifrad, the next issue which we need to look at is that there is a boundary where before that particular point or area, you have to be already in the state of ihram. That you have to already have put on your ihram on, have made the intention. Because if you were to pass this particular boundary or point and you haven't put on your ihram, then as we're going to look at later, you have to sacrifice an animal, but this sacrifice here in Arabic is called dam'a. It's like a penalty, because you've transgressed and you've done something which you were not supposed to do. Now, for those who are going Hajj for the very first time, people, they ask, like, what is this miqat? Why do we have to do it before? Why can't we do it inside and so on? Now, I give them a good example or a comparison. It's similar to when you come into the masjid. Now, when you come to the masjid, there's an area where you take off your shoes, your sandals, and then you put it into the shelf, and then you come up. Why? Because the area of the masjid is like sanctified. It's you don't want it to make it impure, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that outside the masjid, or as soon as you enter the masjid, there will be shoe racks there, and you put your shoes and then you enter. Similarly here as well, that the area which you are entering, which we call the haram, is a very, very blessed place, a very, very pure place. So because of its respect, because of its greatness and its nobleness, what we do is that before we enter that particular area, we put on the ihram, we put on the two garments, and we enter with the intention to perform a umrah or with the intention to perform a hajj. Okay, now there's a map in front of you, and for just us, I'm not going to look at all of them. I'm going to look at the other places like Zatul Irq and Qarnul Manasik. We're not going to look at that. Just for our purpose, there's 3 places which I'm going to concentrate on. One is Jeddah, the second place is Makkah, and the third place is Zul Hulayfa, and as you can see just outside the boundary is Medina Munawwara. Now the boundary which we have here, that is called the Miqat, basically that the Haram you could say, and that is that you can't enter this area without Ihram. Basically, before you enter this area or border, you have to be in the state of Ihram. Okay, now from the 3 places which we're going to look at, as you can see, Jeddah, the Hajj terminal, is actually inside the Haram. It's inside that area where you're supposed to already be, or before you enter that area, you should be in the state of Ihram. So Jeddah is already inside the Haram. Then you've got Makkah in the middle. You got Medina Munawwara outside the Haram, and then you got Zul Hulayfa, which is basically on the border. Now there's 3 things which we're going to look at here. First ruling, or the first situation is that those brothers who are going for Hajj, either you're going for Hajj, just say for example, argument say from Heathrow, so you're flying from Heathrow to Medina Munawwara first. Okay, just say your package is like flying from Heathrow to Medina Munawwara. So in that situation, you don't have to put on your ihram at all, because when you enter Medina Munawwara, you don't need to be in the state of ihram. So in that situation, you could wear your jubba, you could wear your kurta, your kameez, and you could fly normally from Heathrow to Medina Munawwara. Now you go to Medina Munawwara first, you stay there for a few days, and then you need to make a way towards Makkah and obviously perform your Umrah and your Hajj. So in that situation, what you will then do is that you will then come to this place here, Zul Hulayfa, and at Zul Hulayfa, there's a masjid there, there's even like shower facilities, and so on. There's an area for you to change into your ihram. So in that place, you will take off your normal clothes, your jubba, your kameez, your kurta. You will put on your ihram clothes. So now the 2 ihram clothes, again we're going to look at later, just basically 2 sheets of cloth or 2 towels. You wear one like a lungi, and the other you just wear it like a chadar. You just wrap your around. So you do that, and then obviously, again we're going to look at this later, you then pray the 2 rakats, Salat al-Ihram, you make intention, you recite the talbiyah. So that's what you will do. So that's the first situation. The second situation is that somebody, again, is flying from Heathrow, but he's going to go to Jeddah first, and then from Jeddah he's going to fly to Medina Munawwara. So that's another package which sometimes a person may get is, just say he's going from Heathrow to Jeddah, so he's going to land in the Hajj terminal, then he's going to get another connecting flight, where from Jeddah he's going to fly all the way to Medina Munawwara. Medina Munawwara has got its own international airport. Okay? Now in that situation, the question arises that when he now enters Jeddah, does he have to be in the state of Ihram? So the answer is no. You don't have to be in the state of Ihram. Now you may be thinking, well, I just say that this is inside the Haram and you have to be in the state of Ihram before you enter the Haram. You do, but there's an exception to the rule, and the exception here is that because your intention is not go to Makkah, but your intention is to go to Medina Munawwara. So therefore, when you landed at Jeddah, you could land in your normal clothes, and there afterwards, when you now go to Medina Munawwara, there's no need for you to change into your ihram clothes, because your intention is Medina Munawwara and not Makkah. So that's the second situation. The third situation is you're going to Jeddah, and from Jeddah you're going to go to Makkah, as many of the packages nowadays are, that you go to Jeddah first, and then from Jeddah you're going to go straight to Makkah, and it's going to be later on in your stay in Saudi Arabia where you're going to be going to Medina Munawwara. Now in that situation, as you can see, there's a problem here. The problem is that if you don't put on your ihram and you arrive or you land in Jeddah, your you've arrived or you've entered the miqat or the haram without your ihram. So that will then lead to a penalty. So the way to go about it in this situation is, I'll give you a couple of situations. What you could do, number one, is that sometimes if you are connecting, if it's a connecting flight, like for example, when I went Hajj a few years ago, it was basically we went from Heathrow to Cairo and then Cairo to Jeddah. So what a lot of people do is that in Cairo they then go into the state of Ihram. Sometimes if you're going with Emirates or Etihad, then what happens is that you then go to Abu Dhabi or Dubai. You could put on your Ihram from there and then you go to. So it depends. So that, and obviously in those places like Abu Dhabi, Egypt, these countries, they do have facilities in terms of they know people, pilgrims are coming, so they have shower facilities there. So you could do that. You could get changed into your Ihram there if you want and make your intention. Sometimes what could happen is that you've got a direct flight from Heathrow to Jeddah. You're not going to be stopping anywhere. And obviously, some planes, they may have facilities at the back of the plane where you could change, like Saudi Airlines do, but some don't. And sometimes it's difficult to actually like change your clothes or change into your ihram inside the plane. So if the toilets are quite small, it's going to be difficult. So in that situation, what you can do is that you can just put on your ihram clothes. So you could just wear the garment, the chadar and the lungi, then and wear a jubba on top or wear a coat on top, and then before you fly over the miqat, many of them, they will actually make an announcement over the tannoy that, look, you're flying over the miqat, so make your intention. So as soon as they make that announcement on the plane, you take off your jubba which you were wearing, you take off your coat which you were wearing, and then you make the intention that, okay, I'm doing tamattu Hajj or I'm doing Kiran Hajj. You recite the talbiyah, and that's it, you're now in the state of ihram. Okay? So that is like another way to get around it. So it all depends on your package and your situation, but the one I just mentioned now, that is also preferable to do as well. Okay, so you just wear your ihram clothes, because obviously don't make the intention of ihram or talbiyah from home, because that will then mean that you will have to stay in the state of ihram for quite a number of hours, which may be difficult. And sometimes we don't know, wallahu alam, but sometimes what could happen is that when you go to the airport, your flights are cancelled or it's delayed for say another 12 hours, 24 hours. So you're basically stuck in the airport for 24 hours and you're in the state of ihram. And remember, we're going to look at it later, when you say ihram, you're not actually applying any perfume. Even when you go to the toilet, you don't actually use any like soap or any fragrant soap or any kind of hand wash, anything like that. You're not allowed to do that in the state of ihram. So it's preferable that way. You could just wear the clothes, the ihram clothes, and then obviously when you are on the plane and you're just about to approach the miqat, then make the intention of your various hajj, and then you'll be done, inshallah. Okay, so these are just like a few maps and so on. Okay, now the next slide which we're going to look at is with regards to the ihram and how to do the ihram, how to get into that state. So he mentioned that it is sunnah that you clip your nails, you remove your pubic hair, armpit hair, take a shower, ghusl, so on and so forth, put perfume over your body. Remember, you're not in the state of ihram yet, so you can still apply perfume, other these kind of things. And then the last bullet point goes on to say that then you put your ihram garments on, which is the rida and the izar, men only. Remember, women, they don't wear those kind of clothing. Their ihram is just like they will wear their normal clothing, their normal burqa and so on. So that's what it will do. And it says ihram for women, that it is also sunnah for women to have a shower before they put on the ihram. And it goes on to say that a woman who's in a period, his menstruation cycle, she should also take a shower as well. Okay? But remember, that shower or that ghusl is not going to make her clean. She's still in that particular state, so obviously she will be in that state. But she will, so that she could come into the state of ihram, she will take a shower, put on an ihram, make the intention, recite the talbiyah, but she should not pray before the ihram, because as we're going to look at later, it is sunnah to pray 2 rakats before you go to the ihram. She would not do that. Why? Because she's not in the state of ihram. Okay, now. Okay, now this is the important part here. Now after you put on your chadar, the shawl over you, and also your lungi and your lower garments, then it says here that it is sunnah to pray 2 rakat salah. And this is also important as well, with your head covered. Now what I mean by head covered is that, remember when you are praying this 2 rakat sunnah salah, you're not in the state of ihram yet. And you see a lot of people that they would pray their 2 rakat, this 2 rakat salatul ihram, and they will have their head uncovered. They're thinking that they're already in the state of ihram. You're not. It's only after, we will look at later, when you make the intention and talbiyah, that's when you are in the state of ihram. So at that moment in time, you're not in the state of ihram. So what you should do, you should wear your thobi, you should wear your hat, pray the salah. As I said before, because you're not in the state of ihram, you still apply your attar, your khushbu, perfume, fragrance, these kind of things like that. Then he goes on to say, and that's mentioning red writing there, the opportunities for all what you did is preparation for ihram. You're not in the state of ihram. Okay? Even like, now if you were to put on your ihram clothes on, you're not in the state of ihram. This is very important. Many people think that just putting the 2 clothes on, the lower garment, the upper garment, that's the I'm in the state of ihram. No, you're not in the state. These are all just preparation. Then the next point goes on to say, make the intention and say the talbiyah. Then at that time you make the intention. So the intention, as you know, you could make in your own language. You could say, okay, I intend Hajj Qiran or Hajj Ifrad or Hajj Tamattu, and then say the talbiyah. So talbiyah, when you look at the next slide, is labbaik Allahumma labbaik. So as soon as you said that, from this point, now you're in the state of ihram. Okay? So at that point, so after you made the intention and talbiyah, you are now in the state of ihram. And then he goes on to say, after the intention is made, recite the talbiyah loudly, and the talbiyah is in front of us, the Arabic on the right hand side, la labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. The transliteration is on the left hand side, and the translation is this here. So as soon as you make the intention and recite the talbiyah, you're now in the state of ihram. Now the next couple of slides, what we're going to do is just going to look at some masail and some rulings with regards to ihram, and in particular the restrictions of ihram, because as soon as we get into that particular state, certain things which were lawful and halal before have now become unlawful and impermissible for you to do. So we're just going to now look at these masail here in the next couple of slides. Now the first thing which has been made impermissible and lawful for you regarding clothing is that men cannot wear any sewn clothes such as a shirt, turban, hooded cloak, trousers, underwear, shoes, and so on. Okay? So basically, as soon as you're in that state, you're not allowed to wear any sewn clothing. Okay? So anything which is stitched, you're not allowed to wear. So as soon as you say to ihram, your jubba, you're not allowed to wear. Okay, because they are all stitched. Underwear mentioned here, you're not allowed to wear. Trousers, these kind of things, shirts, t-shirts, you're not allowed to wear them at all. Regarding shoes, again, you're not allowed to wear. Now the reason why is because one of the rulings is that, when you are in the state of ihram, your feet, the top part of your feet, i.e. where the upper bone is, that has to be left exposed. That has to be left exposed. Okay, it can't be covered. So that's why wearing normal shoes and so on, that will cover that particular part. So therefore you have to leave that part exposed for your ihram to be correct. And then he goes on to say that women, they can wear their normal clothes, okay? So for women that's okay. They could wear the normal burqa, sewn clothing, that's okay. But they should not cover their faces or their hands. Their hands should be left exposed, and also their face should be left exposed. Obviously that then leads to a question about what should women do regarding niqab. So the ruling is that what they could do, they have this kind of cap niqab, where you put a cap and then they have the sheet of cloth in front of them. So that is away from their face, so it's not touching their face, and also they could maintain the parda and the niqab from other strange men. The next point goes on to say that you're not allowed to wear gloves in the state of ihram, although it is permissible to wrap your hands in a cloth. So if you're like cold, say, and you've got some towel, and then or you go like this with your ihram clothes, that's alright, but you're not allowed to wear any gloves. And also men cannot cover their head with something that touches it. Okay, so basically men cannot wear topi, turbans, these kind of things. They're not allowed to wear that because it covers their head. The next subsection then talks about fragrance. That when you are in the state of ihram, you are not allowed to apply any kind of perfume or any kind of fragrance. So he tells us like soap, whether it's on your clothing and so on, body you're not allowed. So soap, these kind of things, shower gels, you're not allowed to apply hand wash. Say after you've eaten everything, you're not allowed to apply any kind of hand wash and so on. But one ruling which I will mention is that if it is unfragrant soap or unscented, then that is allowed and that is permissible. Okay, and you get this brand called Simple Soap. A Simple Soap. It's good for those who have eczema. So for them, it's not because of the eczema. Those who have eczema, obviously, if they wear or apply perfume soap, it's very difficult for them. It gives them rash and so on and so forth. So there's a type of soap called Simple Soap. It's unscented, it's unfragrant. So it doesn't have any smell or any kind of khushbu or fragrance at all. So for a haji, for a pilgrim to use that will be allowed. Okay, because the prohibition is to apply perfume soap. So if it's unperfumed or unscented, something like the Simple Soap brand, then that would be okay, that would be permissible. Okay. Some of the restrictions or impermissible things of ihram, as you know, sexual intercourse or these kind of things with the husband and wife, that is not allowed. The next bullet point is with regards to cleansing. And a couple of things which I'm just going to mention here. It says that you should not remove any hair from any part of the body. So as soon as you say to ihram, you should remove any hair from any part of the body. So you're not allowed to shave your head, you're not allowed to shave your moustache or trim your moustache, armpit hair, hair below your navel and so on. You're not allowed to do that. Obviously that's why it's encouragement that you do all these kind of things before you get into the state of ihram, but you're not allowed to do that in that particular state. Similarly, you should not clip your nails, so you're not allowed to cut your nails, and you should not kill lice, head lice. Okay, obviously the two reasons why. Obviously if you were to use shampoo, so we mentioned before, you're not allowed to apply fragrance and perfume. And the second thing which you will be doing, which will be wrong, is that the lice or the nits which may be on your hair, you'll also be killing them as well. And as you know, in the state of ihram, you're not allowed to do these kind of things. Yeah, and that's kind of highlighted in the next slide here, what it says, you should not kill animals except those that are harmful or that would attack people, such as mice, snakes and scorpions. Okay, so any kind of like animals which may harm you, which may do anything, which may like attack you and so on, like snakes, like scorpions and so on, so you're allowed to kill them. However, those which are not harmful, then to kill them, to do anything against them, then that will result in a penalty which you will have to give. Okay, now the next slide tells us those things which are permissible to do in the state of ihram. So what we read before were things which you're not allowed to do, but all these things are considered lawful and permissible to do in the state of ihram. Now the first bullet point says that there is no harm in using an umbrella. Now the reason why I'm mentioning is because obviously we read before that you're not allowed to cover your head. So some may be thinking, okay, to cover your head with an umbrella, that's not allowed. Okay, but it is. Because the prohibition we looked at before was to something like a topi or like a turban, which you use specifically to cover your head, or a cap or something like that. To use that to cover your head, that is not allowed. However, to take shade, and in that way, if you are covering your head, then that is allowed. So for obviously, so to have an umbrella over your head, that is okay. The roof of a car or tent for shade, that is okay. Also, there is no harm in carrying your baggage on top of your head. Okay? Because obviously these things, baggage and so on, they're not clothing items. What is prohibited is to wear something which is like a clothing item, like your topi, like your hat, like a cap, like a turban. That is impermissible. However, something which is not considered to be from a clothing perspective, such as, like for example, having like a suitcase over, like sometimes when you're going from one place to another, so some people, they may be carrying some bag, so what they tend to do is that they have the suitcase or that big massive bag over their head and they carry like that. So that is okay in the state of ihram. Also, the second bullet point goes on to say that wearing sandals in the state of ihram, as I already explained, that the sandals have to be such that the top part of the bone that is exposed, rings in the state of ihram, that is also allowed, glasses in the state of ihram, that's allowed, watch, all these things are allowed, yeah? Worn on your wrist or hung from your neck. Okay, some people, they have their mobile phones hung around their neck. So all these things are allowed and permissible in the state of ihram. Wearing a hearing aid or a speech aid, that is also allowed as well. That doesn't affect anything. It goes on to say that according to most scholars, it is permissible for you to cleanse yourself with unscented cleansers. Okay, so as I mentioned, like unperfumed soap, you're allowed to use that in the state of ihram. And to wash and scratch your head and body. Okay, so to wash your body, to scratch your head, these kind of things are permissible, even if some of your hair falls unintentionally. What they're trying to say is that if you intentionally plucked it out, some people got a habit of plucking, their hair and so on, then that's wrong. You have to give a penalty for that. However, if it was like you're just scratching your hair or your head and some hair was to fall out unintentionally, then that's okay, and you don't have to give a penalty or any kind of compensation for that. This is important. Washing your ihram garments or to put new ones on. Because as I already explained, that the main thing of the ihram isn't the clothing. Ihram signifies or means that you make the intention and the talbiyah. So the ihram clothes which you are wearing, the two garments, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you have to wear the same two ihram clothes for the next week or so. Alright, that's not necessary. As you can see, that if you were to wash that ihram clothes, just say there was like something impure got into the ihram clothes, so you're washing that and then you wear a new one, that's okay. Alright? Or even like, for example, obviously you shouldn't, but just for example, someone is sleeping naked, so what does he do? That he takes all these ihram clothes off. So again, taking off your ihram clothes, that doesn't affect your ihram or that doesn't affect your hajj. Because as I said, when we talk about ihram, it's got nothing to do with the clothes. Right? I've said this around 5-6 times. The reason I'm saying is that many people, even though they've been for hajj many times, they still think that ihram means the clothes. I know someone that they've been for hajj for the last 10 years, every year in the last 10 years they've been going hajj. But even then they think that ihram means the ihram clothes. So they ask me the same questions, can I take my ihram clothes off, and so on and so forth. You have to understand that ihram has got nothing to do with the clothes. Ihram is the intention and the talbiyah. Okay? Ihram and clothes, they're two different things. So exactly here as well that washing the ihram garments or putting new ones on, that's totally allowed. Okay? You don't have to wear the same ihram clothes because the main thing about ihram is the intention and the talbiyah. Right? Even at the second to last bullet point tells us that wearing a belt to keep your money and your documents, that is also allowed. Okay? So to have a belt, and then where you put your money and your documents and so on, your passport, that's also allowed. And also the last bullet point, which is also important as well, that it's permissible for men to cover with blanket and duvet, and it is impermissible to wear sewn clothing. As I will explain that, what is impermissible for men to do is to wear sewn clothing. However, for men to cover themselves with blanket and duvet, that is allowed. Okay, now you may argue and say, well, on the duvet sewn or on the blanket sewn, the prohibition which we looked at before was men wearing. The key word here is the wearing. i.e. things which are made for wearing purposes, like your jubbah, like your shirt, like your kameez, like your trousers. These are all wearing purposes. And because they are sewn, and if men were to wear that, that's impermissible in the state of ihram. However, if they cover themselves with blankets, because no one will be saying, that guy is wearing a blanket. No one will say that. They will say he's covering himself with a blanket. So because you're not wearing your covering, so therefore to cover yourself with sewn clothing or with sewn blankets, that's allowed. Okay? What is prohibited is for men to wear sewn clothing. If you are covering yourself, that's allowed. Even to the extent that, let's say there's a jacket, which is like sewn, but if you weren't wearing in the state of ihram, but you left it dangling around your shoulders, just like you put it around your shoulder and you're walking like this in the state of ihram, that's allowed as well, because you're not wearing it. If somebody was looking at you, you won't say, that person is wearing his coat. You'll say he's dangling his coat on his shoulders. Okay, so there's a difference. So the key word is wearing. Wearing sewn clothing is impermissible. However, to cover yourself with sewn clothing or as they gave the example of blankets and so on to cover, to dangle that over your, or to have it around your neck and so on, that's allowed, and that doesn't affect the validity of your ihram. Okay, so these are just some maps about haram and so on. So it gives us a bird's eye view of the haram. So these are just a few things like showing us the black stone is. So remember the black stone, this is the black stone here. So it's like more or less opposite of the Maqam Ibrahim. So Maqam Ibrahim is where Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam stood to construct the Kaaba. So this is the Maqam Ibrahim, his footprints are still there, and even if you look into that particular place, you will still see his footprints. This is the black stone. These are important because when we talk about how to perform the tawaf, you need to know where the black stone is, because the tawaf starts from the black stone, the doors of the Kaaba, Hijr Ismail. Now this bit here, if you could see, where it's like a white kind of wall, a small white wall. This is known as the Hijr Ismail, but also known as the Hadith. And it's narrated that the graves of 70,000 prophets are in that place. So that Hadith, that Hijr Ismail, the graves of 70,000 prophets are there. And it's mentioned that the graves of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam and Sayyidina Hajra, they are also inside there as well. So that is the Hadith. Okay. Okay, so this tells us the different corners and so on. Zamzam. Okay. Okay, now the first, now we're going to get more into the action. What we read before was regarding more about the clothing and so on and so forth. Now it's more regarding the actions of performing the Hajj. Yeah? Now, I've said before that, especially those who are going from the UK, they'll be either doing the first two categories of Hajj. Either they'll be doing Hajj Tamattu or Hajj Kiram. Very rarely you see one of like our people going there just for Hajj, but they'll take the opportunity to do both Umrah and to do both Hajj at the same time. Now, so therefore what we can do is that firstly I'm going to give you a brief explanation of how to perform the Umrah, and thereafter I'll explain to you how to do the Hajj. Now, Umrah, these are the things which you need to do when you are performing your Umrah. They are, first of all, you need to do the Ihram, and putting the garment intention. So you could say that we've done that. Okay, so they'll tick over that, yeah? The next thing which we need to do is regarding the Tawaf Umrah. The next thing thereafter is the Sa'i, the running between Mount Safa, Mount Marwa, and the thing which we're going to do afterwards is Halaq or Taqsir, i.e. we will shave our head, and that will release us from the Ihram. So these are the four things which we have to do. Okay, now firstly what will happen is that when we arrive at the Haram, firstly, we should take a bath, ghusl before entering Makkah if possible. Okay, so now when we just have obviously it's going to be difficult, but if it's possible, because what will happen is that if you are going, say, from Jeddah to Makkah, what will happen, and those of you been for Hajj will know that in Jeddah there's always a delay. Okay, you're just there in Jeddah for like 6-7 hours. I don't know, it's just like considered normal, just like being in Jeddah for 6-7 hours. Yeah, even though it's not busy, even though you look at Jeddah and you think, okay, it's not busy here. Everything seems organized. They've taken all your belongings and your luggage. But even then, there's always like something going on there where you're going to be staying back at Jeddah for 6 to 7 hours. And in that situation, at first in Jeddah, they do have shower facilities, ghusl facilities. So if in that situation, if you were to have a shower there before you then make your bus journey towards Makkah, then that is possible, yeah, if you want. Okay, then again it says that when you arrive at Masjid al-Haram, when you see the Kaaba, then raise your hand and make dua. Okay, it's mentioned that it's one of the places where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts your dua. As soon as you enter the masjid and you see the Baytullah, as soon as you see the Baytullah, any dua you make, inshallah, they'll be accepted by Allah. The bullet point then goes and says that there is no dua established from the Prophet at this point. Okay, so there's no particular dua So any dua which you know, and remember dua doesn't have to be said in Arabic, in your own language, Urdu, Bengali, English, jo bhi hai, whatever dua you make, that will be accepted, yeah? And also, this is also very important as well, that, again, fortunately some people, again, through their lack of knowledge, that they think that they have to enter the haram through a particular door or through a particular gate. Again, that is not necessary. Whichever gate you enter the haram from, then that would be allowed, that would be permissible. Okay, what we'll do is that we'll just leave it there for today, inshallah. We'll just continue with the tomorrow, because I don't want to start this section regarding Umrah and then leave it halfway in between. So we'll just leave it there for today's session. And like the tawfiq to everyone, we'll say wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.